Let's now examine the additives found in vaccines and see how dangerous they might be. Vaccines can contain adjuvants, preservatives, and low levels of contaminants. How toxic are these substances, and how do they fundamentally differ from the active ingredients in vaccines? Vaccine antigens stimulate our immune system. When the antigen is bound by a B cell, this triggers clonal expansion, and thousands of stimulated B cells train to produce antibodies to perfection. These well-trained and experienced B cells enlist into the memory brigade of our immune system and stand on call should we be infected by the real disease-causing virus in future encounter. Adjuvants, preservatives, and contaminants, however, are not antigens and do not stimulate an exponential B cell response. So, for these chemicals to actually be dangerous, they would have to be poisonous. Poisons are dangerous because they interfere with our enzymes, block our metabolism, and compromise our physiology. The potency of poisons is directly related to the dose a given poison requires in order to cause an effect, relative to our body weight. The bigger we are, the more poison we can tolerate without getting sick. This dose effect is why poisons are such a concern for children, because children and babies are small. So, are adjuvants toxic? Adjuvants are made of aluminum salts. Aluminum is the third most abundant chemical in the world. 8% of soil is aluminum. Aluminum is everywhere. In our food, dust in the air, antacid tablets contain as much as 500 milligrams per tablet. Buffered aspirin has 20 milligrams per pill. Antiperspirants can be high in aluminum. So are American cheese and oregano. And please, don't get me going about baking soda. 20 milligrams aluminum per gram. All these commodities contain milligrams of aluminum. A baby feeding on formula takes in as much as 2 milligrams of aluminum every day, and a full-grown man probably takes in 10 times as much. These amounts, however, are still well below the permissible safe levels of aluminum intake, which would be about 140 milligrams a day for a person weighing 150 pounds. That is about 70 kilograms. So now, how much aluminum, you ask, is actually added to vaccines? Usually about 250 micrograms per vaccine. And how much is 250 micrograms, you may ask? What does 250 micrograms aluminum look like? Let me first zero the analytical balance. And just to be sure that everything's okay, I'll weigh an Israeli shekel, which should be about 3.5 grams, or 3,500 milligrams. And indeed it is. So everything is working. The volume of typical vaccines is 0.5 milliliter, which weighs about 500 milligrams. So here I'll weigh 0.5 milliliter of water, which you see shows just about 0.5 gram, 495.5 milligrams to be precise, which is fine. Now, I'll add as little salt as I can. And as you see, it's already too much, more than 1 milligram, which is 4 times the amount of aluminum in a typical vaccine. So you see, when people talk about the danger of aluminum in vaccines, you really need to think about how much aluminum would be needed to become dangerously toxic, as compared to how little is actually used to enhance the response to the vaccines. The next additive in vaccines that people have been concerned about is mercury. We've all been warned about how dangerous mercury is. Actually, this is true. Inorganic mercury is converted to methyl mercury by bacteria in the sea. These are eaten by plankton, which are eaten by fish, which are ultimately eaten by us. The ingested methyl mercury is absorbed in our gut and can cause neurological disorders. Thimerosal is a preservative that contains mercury and was added to vaccines packaged in multi-dose vials. Thimerosal ensured that the vaccine stayed sterile and safe for multiple dispensing. However, when thimerosal enters our body, it produces ethyl mercury, not methyl mercury. The two mercury compounds are not the same, and the ethyl form is not as toxic as the methyl mercury. However, the whole debate over mercury is now moot. Since the year 2000, pediatric vaccines are supplied as single-dose sterile shots. Hence, for the last 17 years, kids' vaccines are thimerosal-free. Finally, the last additives that need attention are the contaminants. These exist in minute amounts, much less than the antigen itself or the adjuvant when used. Nonetheless, the contaminants can be very dangerous for people who are allergic. As we learned in Lesson 6, some people are allergic to harmless proteins their body perceives as allergens. Should a person who is allergic to egg protein be vaccinated against flu virus, this could be catastrophic, as flu vaccines are made in eggs. People need to know their allergy status the same way as they avoid peanuts or pollen. This is why the nurse practitioner always asks you to wait 15 to 30 minutes in the waiting room after vaccination. This is to ensure that all is well. And in the event of a severe allergic response, epinephrine can be administered and resolve the problem.